Good evening, everyone. This is Benedict Lecca speaking to you from the historic Harrison Room at the Redwood Library, your friendly director of the library. I want to welcome everyone tonight to another special event. As you know, we feel strongly and believe in an expansive definition of the humanities. It isn't just gray-haired guys like me pawing leathery books, but it's also art, culture, and music. You might remember 2 weeks ago, we had the excellent Clemens Teufel doing a whole series of pieces by the Romantic masters, Liszt and Chopin. Tonight, it's a bit different. We have an original composer, a young man who is very accomplished. And that's one of the things that we believe in strongly at the Redwood, is to give voice to young people and their artistic expression. Margin Alexander is a New York City metropolitan area based composer and pianist with a soul full of energy and fantasy in his original work. From his beginnings, Margin discovered that his ultimate mission as a composer-performer was to touch as many hearts as possible with his music. He has developed an unorthodox composition technique that would intertwine the traditional with the new style in order to develop a unique genre of music that would be embraced by everyone. Now, he is highly trained and accomplished. He began to study piano and music in Albania and Macedonia. He's a graduate of Montclair State University. He holds a BA in music composition as well as a master's from the same school. He has studied with Grammy Award-winning composer Robert Aldridge. And today he is a touring and performing artist touring around the world. He has performed all over at the IBLA Grand Prize Festival in Ragusa, Italy. He has performed at the Musée d'Art Moderne d'Art Contemporain in Nice, France, the Zodiac Festival in Ukraine, Manhattan, Carnegie Hall, no less, and all over Washington and other venues in New York City. So, and before I forget, I would invite everyone to remember to sign on to our YouTube channel, because all of our events, almost all of them, will be posted on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for that matter, why don't you join as a member? We sure would appreciate that. But for the moment, I am going to pass it over to Mr. Alexander, who will perform a number of his original pieces. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Benedict. Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to perform, especially for your library, because you know, as a composer, I've performed a little bit everywhere, but I feel that I have a special feeling about this. I don't know why. I just have this attraction with your library. So I would like to take advantage of this and express my deep gratitude to Mr. Benedict, Carrie, Miss Carolyn Dupont, and all the rest of the crew that have been coordinating this program. Mr. Benedict said a lot about my biography, so I don't feel the need to add any more. I just want to introduce you very briefly to what I'll be performing tonight and the format of my concert. I would have loved to be in the concert hall of your library, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, you know, things have changed. However, art goes on, and we keep the passion going. So my format is a little bit different from other formats. Because I like to pay more attention to the interaction between the composer or the performer and the audience. So I'll be narrating my pieces. Every piece of mine has a little bit of history, and you know, the music that I will be presenting for you here is part of my 2 albums, which you may find later if you'd like to check them out on Spotify or YouTube. And it's very cinematic, the music that I'll play for you. It's very narrating, it's very pleasant, very tonal, although I'm a composer who composes in many different genres, including the avant-garde, but I hope that I will get an opportunity to play for you that genre as well. But today we'll be listening together to my two albums, which are very cinematic, neo-romantic, neoclassical, if you would describe them so. So I'd like to start with the first piece. I'll play the piece and then I'll stop for a few seconds to tell you the story of it. It's called Water Sounds. So, as I mentioned, this piece is called Water Sounds because it has a very interesting story. I started composing this piece many years ago as a theme, and then later I developed it. But I composed it first when I started first taking composition lessons, and I studied with a professor, a very good professor of mine, who made a great impact on my compositional skills. But unfortunately, he was not happy with this, because it was very demanding and it was very hard to please him. So I remember me and a few other fellows from the composition class, we showed him the piece, and he rejected everything. He said, "This is not good enough. You did not follow my instructions." and we were disappointed. Being freshmen in college, one word, we were very sensitive. So I remember us walking very quiet. We walked out of the music building and we sat down at a bench there, and it was full time. So this little drizzling started happening, and we just like sat there in silence. And we felt devastated. I don't know why, but it hurt us. All of a sudden, at early in the morning, I woke up and I sat at the piano and I started playing this piece. It was so effortless. It came out so effortlessly, and I guess the disappointment with the sadness and a little bit, the drizzling, sort of kind of fueled this inspiration that made me write this. And I try to emulate the sounds of the rain. So this is why I call it water sounds. The next piece that I'll play for you, it's called the Reminiscence Intermezzo. This is a very connected to my childhood memories. I lived for a long time in Southeastern Europe, and I dedicate this to the bicycle rides that I used to do with my grandfather in this town with a lake. So for you, the Reminiscence Intermezzo. It's a very cinematic piece. It's that's why I called it the Reminiscence. Next piece that I'll play, it's a very different one. One of my favorite cities to be in is New York City, and I particularly like to hang out on Bleecker Street. Maybe all of you know that it's a very nice area to be around. There's art galleries, a lot of comedy clubs, so it's very lively. So Last year, I had a chance to play in France, and I was in Europe for quite a long time. I'd never been that long in out of the country, and I missed home. And I came back to New York, and it was a very hot August day, and it happened that I was in Bleecker Street, and all of a sudden, this short but pouring rain started happening, and I felt very happy that I was back home, but um, it just signaled the end of summer, and it was quick, short, and plentiful. So, of course, being a composer, this evoked music out of my brain, and I had to go rush to the piano and compose this short piece that I called "Bleaker Rain." Um, not every piece that I write has a long story, but it depends on the occurrence and everything. And sometimes I like to tell the story just by playing the piece. So I leave it to your imagination. I'll play a piece for you called "One's Dream." It's a very neo-romantic, meditative. I listen to it sometimes for when I want to be in this peaceful state of mind, or whenever I'm meditating. So I'll present it here for you. It's called "One's Dream." One of my big passions is traveling, and I try to take advantage of every summer or whenever I have time to travel. And strangely, I love airports. I've thought a lot about it. Why do I like airports? I mean, it's just a transitional place, but I guess it's the core of the thought that you are away from something. And you know, there's this particular airport in Italy, the Fiumicino airport. Every time I go there, whether I am Italy bound or it's just a transition, I love to take a walk by Terminal One because every time I look out the window, I see this street which brings you to this little town called Terni before you go to Rome, and right across the street, I mean on both sides, there's these beautiful stone pines which are typical for the Mediterranean region. In Italian, they call them cimbri. Cimbro is in singular and cimbri in plural. And I just like to just sit there and just look. It's just so peaceful. I mean, this is supposed to be a busy road, but there's hardly any cars ever driving there, and I just enjoy looking at that over that street for I don't know maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And I dedicated a piece of music to it, and I called it in Italian La Strada dei Cimbri, which in Italian means the street of the stone pines. And I'll play it here for you. I hope I was able to deliver that the peacefulness of that Strada dei Cembri that I wrote the music for. Um, Next piece that I'll play for you, it's one of my most favorite pieces. It doesn't have any extraordinary story, but it's very connected to one of my friends. He's a filmmaker, and he actually asked me to compose the soundtrack of a short film of his called Poesia, which in a few European languages is translated as the poem. And this is probably one of the pieces that I've received the most feedback. It's actually a lot of people who admire my music. They like this one, including myself. And I will present it for you. It's a very romantic piece, and again, it's a very cinematic piece. As I mentioned earlier, my passion for traveling it doesn't stop there. But this is a very funny story actually, but very it made an impact on me. My first time when I traveled to Paris, I'd heard from, of course, from the world and my friends and everyone that Paris is a beautiful city, and people can't stop talking about it, and sometimes. I heard so much that I was thinking maybe it's so overrated. People talk about Paris and this and that, and I feel like I'd already been there. So that kind of, in my perception, took away a little bit from the excitement. However, I went there, and to be honest, I chose the not the best neighborhood to be in order to represent the center of Paris, the one that we were always used to see, the Eiffel Tower. I ended up being in a very normal neighborhood. Called strangely Stalingrad, which I didn't expect, and and I was honestly a bit disappointed. I didn't see what I'd heard about, And of course, I was also impatient, so I jumped on a subway train, and I took it from the Stalingrad station to the Louvre Museum. And the moment I got out of the underground station, I was so fascinated and hit by this beautiful sense of space and Palais Garnier, all these. It was just like in a dream, beautiful starry sky, and I could see the Eiffel Tower from distance glowing. It was just amazing. It blew my mind, and my mood and everything, my perception changed in a matter of seconds. So I took a very quiet and long walk from the Louvre Museum to the Eiffel Tower. And of course, again, being a composer, I couldn't help but compose music to it. So I tried to compile all these feelings that I got into a piece that I call the Parisian Suites. So these are 3 little suites compiled together, making a big piece, and which are meant to convey my disappointment and my joy. So here's for you the Parisian Suites. So this is even harmonically and structurally in the music world. It's a very different piece because I I'm usually presenting romantic or neo-romantic. This is a bit impressionistic, so I hope you got to match the suites with my moods. For example, when I start here, this is a little bit I try to express the ambiguity of it by this, like the impressionistic part of it, and then my joy comes at the little waltz. If you notice the it's a very romantic part. So yeah, this was the Parisian suites. Now I'm going to come to we're in the middle of the concert, and I specifically chose this piece as the climax because it's called "Time Has No Face," and I try to keep this very minimalistic, but at the same time I try to express the depth of the mood by manipulating the dynamics. Dynamics are a great element of a piece of music, as they can change your entire mood, entire color frame in your mind about. And this is what I try to do with this piece called "Time Has No Face." I named it that way because when I think of it, it just always brings me to this linear waves just moving up and down, and it's a very melancholic piece. But I love it. I wish sometimes I hadn't composed it so I could just sit and then hear someone else play it for me. But here, I'll play it for you. I thoroughly enjoy playing this, especially here, because I feel like the vibe, the lighting, and everything sometimes make a perfect environment for matching the music, and I love that. Um, this year, I was supposed to perform at Carnegie Hall. The performance was scheduled for March, but as we know, due to the pandemic, a lot of plans and a lot of schedulings and events were canceled. And unfortunately, I was greatly impacted by that. But just like other artists, and including myself, we stay optimistic that things will get better and slowly get back to normal, so then we can start sharing our art with the rest of the music admirers. I had the chance to perform before at Carnegie in November of last year, and I had the opportunity to perform a nocturne of mine. I have written a few nocturnes, but I decided to play this one because it matched the season. I wrote it during fall time, and I started this just like Water Sounds at the beginning. I started this nocturne when I was, I believe, 13 or 14 years old, and I left it as a little musical sketch in my little musical diary. But then I decided to develop it. I was inspired by these beautiful streets in southeastern Europe, covered with fall leaves, and it just every time I walked on them, it just evoked art in me. So I'll present for you my Nocturne number 2. It's a very classical piece. It's not like the other ones that are very tonal and very cinematic. This one is more on the classical, neoclassical side. I hope I was able to convey the colors of the fall through this nocturne. I'll move on to a different piece that it's become like a landmark uh, for my repertoire, because I always play it no matter what genre, no matter what concert. But I'll play it for you. It's a piece that dates back to my very beginnings of composition and has a very funny title, and frankly I can't recall why it has that title. It's called "The Song of the Pirate." I believe I might have performed this with one of my friends, a very good cellist, for a Halloween concert back in college, but I'm not sure. So I will play for you the Song of the Pirate. This piece, as I told you, this was meant to be for a cello and piano, but unfortunately I had to transcribe it for piano today because I couldn't get my friend to play here with me. But hopefully in the future I'll play the original version for you. Before I close the program, I would like to tell you the story of this piece. It's called I Love You Forever. This one has a very special story. It's a very new composition. I composed it actually last year. As I might have mentioned before, I had the opportunity to play in France, in the south of France, and there was a festival in a little place called Le Bolin, and we were going to perform at a ancient church. It was probably older than maybe 1,000 years old, and it was a privilege. It felt very, very special. And the night before the concert, I wanted to try the piano and feel the acoustics, so I can get accustomed to the sound there. And I walked into the church. It was a little church. You could smell the grace. You could smell how old and everything around. And the acoustics were amazing because of, I guess, the structure, the architecture, and besides the material that I played, that I rehearsed there, I was very inspired to compose. And I composed a prelude that I called it I Love You Forever. And it's not only in the romantic sense, but I decided to dedicate this to human love in general. Be that for your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your partner, your wife, your husband, whomever it be. And because every time I play this, it brings love to my mind. And this is why I decided to call it I Love You Forever. So here I will close the concert for you with I Love You Forever. And then we'll stay a little bit. Those of you who would like to chat, or if you have any questions or any feedback, please feel free to interact with me as I really cherish that. So I'll be back with you after I Love You Forever. And here we have come to the end of our concert. And let me turn on the light here because I feel like the sunset has actually affected a bit. Yeah. So, I hope you enjoyed it. And, as I said in the beginning, I played here with a very special feeling. I don't know why, but, it's just the vibe that I've gotten from here. So I see one person is asking a question here. Okay, it's just the library announcing. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alexander. That was wonderful. I love the piece on water effects. I've always been interested in the depiction of water in art history. Monet, the reason he built that was so that he could try to replicate the effects right outside his door. And that's, water's tricky to nail down in any medium.
It's very intriguing and fascinating.
Does anyone have any questions? I invite anybody that is currently listening to, I just have a quick question about the way that you compose. I mean, do you sit down and start?
So this is a very good question. There's many ways. Every day I try to analyze myself. How does my inspiration come? Sometimes yes, I sort of push out my ideas, but sometimes, believe it or not, it's a blessing and a curse. There's occurrences when I have to wake up because I can't just let it die out because I know that I will not remember it. It just like it comes to my mind and I sit down and I play the entire piece. And sometimes I have a great idea, but I don't know what's next. So I have to use techniques and, try to find ways to inspire myself to continue. But yeah.
Reminds me a lot of writing. That's happened to me before where I keep a little notepad next to my bed because, I'll be in the middle of writing an essay and I decide, okay, it's time for me to go to bed. And then right as I'm dozing off, I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got to write this down because I'm going to forget it.
It's 100%, what I go through. I guess it's the same, in terms of inspiration. I guess inspiration is the same element in all these aspects. Yeah.
It's so fleeting. You got to hang on to it when you find it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's, it's happened that I've neglected it, when I was younger. And then I just woke up like, oh, that was such a great idea. Why did I let it go? And, you mourn it and then, you get over it after a while. But yeah, keeping a diary is important.
Okay, well, I want to, on behalf of everyone at the Redwood and all of our audience members, I want to thank you very much for an outstanding presentation, very interesting. And I want to remind our viewers of what's coming up next. Dr. Marquardt will be, you know him well. He has performed many times before at the Redwood. He'll be performing music by the late Romantics. Then there is the book club via Zoom about Churchill and his family during the Blitz. And then there will be a lecture on July 22nd by a man named James Rosenbush on how to win over your audience like a president. I'll be sure and attend that one because I need help. But anyways, I want to thank you all very much and see you soon until the next time. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Alexander. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It was all mine. Appreciate it.